Hello world, it's JWP, J Ward Primo Beats, coming to you live from my bedroom. Check me out on YouTube at JWPTube, Facebook, JWP Meta, Twitch, JWP Stream, Patreon, JWP Patreon, and Discord. Link in description. I'll be looking at developing a preset manager in SynthEdit 1.4. I'll be using the tutorial 4 ending project, which is available on Patreon for free public download. Currently, it looks like there's already a type of preset manager in there, and that is just very minimal. And it's important to note that the reason it's there is because of the patch automator, which is important for keeping track of all the MIDI values or the placements, patch memory placements within the project. And that has to be connected to a MIDI in order for it to receive MIDI patch change messages. So I'm going to expand on this a bit here. I'm going to switch the skin here to an alternate skin, a default 2, which isn't needed for someone just starting out or from a fresh install of SynthEdit. However, I have it that way because I prefer to set my default to my current working project so I can see everything as I'm developing it in the system. So right now, all I have is sort of a list readout, and I'm not really liking this list readout because it has this strange arrow at the bottom here. That makes it a bit annoying to go past about 40. However, I am going to look at some of the other functions of the preset browser before changing the list entry to anything else. So I'm just going to bring in another list entry. And what we have here, we'll go to patch commands and patch commands list. Now, if we click the list with without writable on, we now have our different selections. So if I go copy patch, this will allow me to copy from the current patch to a specific range, which is good for making defaults. However, that is sort of depreciated as that's more of a VST2 system thing. In a VST2 system, the 128 patches are generally there already, and you want to kind of copy your default across those 128, making the total bank. Additionally, the bank doesn't have to have that. However, that's the factory bank, so to speak. We also have load preset, and if we look, we have a few different options here. We have XML preset, VST preset, audio unit preset, and VST instrument preset. This would be the more VST2 preset, whereas XML and VST presets are more VST3. And of course, audio units is the Mac function that I have no clue about in SynthEdit. Also, we go load save bank. We have again XML bank or VST bank, and XML would be more VST3 and VST2 for VST bank, 6 FXB. And I do believe the XML banks are exclusive to SynthEdit, whereas most VST3 systems don't actually have XML or XML banks. So this wouldn't be the way you'd want to connect this. As we can see, we have no functionality or no visible functionality in the box up here. It just brings up the right-click list. Not only that, this isn't a momentary system. I mean, we could get one by using the list combiner and then switching on momentary. However, that's not really what we want. We want to use something more along the lines of the pop-up menu. So we're just going to go ahead and delete that. And this actually has its own momentary system. So we can switch that on and we'll turn our pop-up menu into a momentary system. Not only that, we have sort of a heading here that's visible, and we can change that to anything. So we'll say manage presets or preset. Or I could just say manage for short. However, we do have a decent amount of space up here. So to make room for it. And it does look like my synth is off the grid a little bit. Perhaps the starting box is, yeah, it's a starting box. And again, it's still kind of off the grid, whereas they're not exactly linking in the middle, meaning that there's an extra 8 pixels. However, we'll just leave a little small space here. Yeah. Now, if we click this, we now have the pop-up menu for copying or loading banks or patches. And we also have a heading that doesn't change. However, this list here, as I said, this is kind of an inconvenience when it kind of gets to that point where it's no longer visible. So we'll also replace this with a pop-up menu. And we'll see that the pop-up menu will allow us to see all the presets available in one view. So we can see all 128. I'm just going to select one. We're going to move this over. And we want a different heading. Perhaps we can use the current preset name heading. So we're just going to connect that to heading. Of course, it's blank right now. As it stands, this is kind of where things get a little strange, whereas we want, to be able to access the complete list all at once. However, this doesn't allow us to rename the current preset. So perhaps not connecting heading is a better idea here. Instead, maybe we want something like, just need to click back and forth to get this heading back open. We'll say bank. And then we'll move this over. Select patch 1. And we'll go halfway somewhere. Maybe we'll just do the length of the word bank. And we're going to bring in a text entry. Now, there's other ways to do this. Make it more spatially convenient, whereas I prefer to have sort of a flip menu, which I will show in a second. So preset name here to text, and we'll make sure that's writable. We're just going to leave the style for normal for now. And we're going to want that over here. And it's a good idea when making synths or even effects to have a default patch. And this is just kind of where everything is set for a default. So I'm just going to go through these numbers and set them. I'm just going to look at the default values for an ADSR. That is 57410. So I want to set these to their default values. These aren't specifically, they have to be this way. This is just what SynthEdit sets them as. And of course, the amount is 10. And we'll do a rate of, that's fine, a depth of 5. We'll just go depth of 10. And sign, route to, filter pitch is fine. And our cutoff will set to 5, which I think is 1,000 hertz. And resonance 5. So that's now our default patch. And as we have the bank set up and default our labeler in, we can now go ahead and build this just to demonstrate some of our options. So we'll save and export. Okay. And then over here in FL Studio, I've already gone through and made it available. However, that is the wrong one. I do believe it's this one now. Okay. No, it's completely broken. So what I'm going to have to do is refresh. I do believe I named that wrong. Tutorial, that's tutorial 3 synth, which I don't want. I want tutorial 4 synth PM. Okay, save file first, sure. Head back to FL and delete this. Now we're going to get a additional plugin alongside our tutorial 4 synth. Okay, so Tutorial 3 was the older version here. This one. All right, so now we now have our default preset. We have a bank, which only contains our default preset, and we also have the right-click or forward and back functions of the VST wrapper. If we did things incorrectly, for example, we didn't have our patch automator, we'd lose sort of our preset system. I'm just going to go ahead and build that. I got to remove it here first. Okay. File first, no, because I don't want to have to replace my preset manager. If we've seen there in the brief of the video or the export, GUI export, there was no name in the system. We can also see we still seem to have a default, probably because it built one. However, normally that wouldn't be there. I'm not sure how I can demonstrate that. Let's open the original tutorial 4 endpoint here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to pull this, and this will replace the 3 synth. Okay, and okay, so now we go in here and we look at the system without a preset system. We can now see that where is it getting this from? That's not supposed to be there anymore. I do believe it's because it's saved somewhere. And I imagine that's either in the VST folder, browse presets. You can see. Or we go save preset, plugin presets, VST, image line, FL21, data, patches, plugin presets, VST. So it's quite deep where it's stored, and I believe there's another position where they're stored. We'll explore that momentarily. However, generally, if there are no presets and you did it wrong, you actually wouldn't get these arrows. It would just be the allow a plugin to handle keystrokes before the host does, and the minimize and close, which I was hoping to demonstrate. However, that's not the case. So going back to the tutorial 4 with the preset manager, we did lose that, right? Okay, I'm just checking where we are here. And I seem to have closed SynthEdit. All right. So everything's back to normal here. There's a couple ways of making presets. I do believe the only way to make banks is inside SynthEdit itself. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and export this. I'll say number of presets 64, which is sort of irrelevant. Save file first, doesn't matter. Okay. I'll bring it back in. Now, if we go to manage presets, we do have banks. So not 100% sure how that works. Because, of course, we need a new preset, right? So perhaps if we change the name, we'll say presets 1. Then what does our bank look like? Change the attack a little bit, something like that. And okay, so save preset, and we'll say this is preset 1. It's a VST, VST2, save options, audio units are XML. And so this is generally, I believe, the default folder. So this PC documents VST3 presets, my name, and then the specific folder. So let's, look at all that stuff. That's where everything's been saving as far as SynthEdit. So I'm just gonna hop out of there. We're gonna go save presets, and we're gonna preset 1. And if we look at the bank now, we have user presets and other. And other, I imagine, is factory presets. So there doesn't seem to be a way to save the bank. I'm just going to throw this on the desktop and call this 2 presets. Now, let us add, rather, let's revert the system here. The plugin. We're back to default. And let's try preset 2. And close the releases. Save preset and preset 2. Now, if we look, we have default preset 1. I'm not sure why preset 2 didn't save. It's just not showing up. So FL Studio, the host, is saving presets in an alternate location as it does the preset system itself. So we can see deep inside the computer and specific to FL Studio. So it looks like there's lots to explore here for preset development. This was just a basic run through of to get people pointed in the right direction, or even point myself in the right direction here. We do have something else called preset category. However, I recommend against using this, as end users cannot set a category. When developing, however, if you really wanted to set some categories, you can go ahead and do so yourself. And we're just going to test that theory. But as I remember, end users cannot create categories or even add plugs or add presets to categories, which is unfortunate. So we're going to call our default category. We are going to make a preset. We'll call this factory, or category rather. We'll call it factory default. And then we will save the project and remove the currently running one so that the SynthEdit doesn't bump into it. I'm just going to save here, export there. Okay. And yeah, okay. I'm going to bring it in. So now we now have factory. And if we look here, we have default VST user with the presets there, bank, factory, and user. So it looks like our default or whatever was there before is now gone. But like I said, I don't believe users can create presets in here, at least not in the past. So we're going to say saw, quick saw, short saw. And we're just going to change some of the parameters here. And that should be fine. We're going to flip this to saw, kind of to live up to its name, and we're going to say saw. Saws. And that's the sign. Okay. Now that that's set, let's go ahead and save that. So manage and save preset. We'll say short saw. And of course that flips to user. And if we reload the synth, I think it might actually add to the, it adds to the FL Studio presets. So as nice as it is there, I don't recommend including it for end users. However, development in SynthEdit can take advantage of the category parameter. Just move it off to the side here, and then we'll expand this guy back open. And then we'll create our preset called saw. And of course, with short saw, so short release, and get it again. I'm going to call that short saw. Short saw, short saw. And this will be saws. And then we're going to go ahead and move into another one. Actually, I'm going to copy first. So we're going to go copy patch. And we're going to go from range to range. So I'm going to copy. So another advantage of using the SynthEdit system is that we have the copy function, I think. Can we here? To 3, to 3, to 3. Yeah, okay, copy over. All right, and then we're going to call this square. Of course, we don't have pulse width anywhere, I don't think. So it's not actually going to be a square. It's going to be a pulse. Set that to pulse, and we're just going to open sustain up and the release back open again if sustain feels like staying up there. And we're going to call this squares. Of course, don't have to save because this is all factory bank, where I mean this probably should be factory, but not really, because this is the only way to take advantage of the category system. So its own separate little banks are going to save, and we're going to go export VST, and just want to make sure it's not running, which it isn't. Okay. And we're going to load it in. We should now have a couple categories under our banks. Yeah, so we got saws and squares. Of course, that'll load what I had preset. Of course, we have the default in the factory, and we have the users. And the user cannot access or see the category. I mean, you could put it on there to see the category if you really want. It's all based on the developer's decision. I prefer not to. I'm going to totally remove category from any instance that I build because it's just not something I want to use if it's not going to be available to the end user. I just want to take a quick look, see if there's anything else that really needs to be talked about from my experience. Anything else to document? I'm not seeing anything. So yeah, I suppose I'll call that video here. Check me out on YouTube at JWP Tube, Twitch, JWP Stream, Facebook, JWP Meta, Patreon, JWP Patreon, and Discord. Link in description. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.